I woke up one morning, stepped outside with my coffee, and found my HOA had chainsawed my memorial garden to the ground. 3 years of work gone in minutes. Roses planted for my fallen brothers ripped out like trash. Not because I broke a rule, not because it was unsafe, but because someone wanted my land to look better in a magazine photo. That was the moment I stopped being a quiet homeowner and became a problem they never saw coming.
My HOA chainsawed my memorial garden for a magazine photo. I woke up Tuesday morning and found 3 years of work wiped out in a single morning. The hedge wall was destroyed, memorial roses planted for my 3 fallen friends from Afghanistan were scattered across the dirt like they meant nothing. Some HOA princess and her crew had turned it all into sawdust just to make the entrance look pretty for a photo shoot. The smell of diesel from their wood chipper still hung in the air like a battlefield. I stood there in my bathrobe, coffee mug in my hand, staring at what used to be sacred ground. Most people would call lawyers, file complaints, beg offices for help. But I'm a Navy CB. We don't beg, we build. And when someone declares war on sacred ground, you don't rebuild a hedge. You build something so solid they regret ever touching your land. What would you do if your HOA destroyed a memorial for fallen heroes? Where are you watching from? Are you dealing with HOA nightmares too? Let me paint the picture. Paradise Pines. One of those rich suburban developments where every mailbox costs more than most people's rent, grass measured with rulers, garbage cans better be gone by 7 a.m. sharp. I'm Earl Morrison, but everyone calls me Tank. That name stuck from my Navy CB days when I could weld steel in 30-foot waves. I spent 22 years building bridges, airstrips, and forward bases in places where maps didn't work and mistakes got people killed. These days, I run a small welding shop from my garage, making custom ironwork for folks who respect real labor. The sound of cooling steel at night replaced the sound of arguments in courtrooms. Better than lawyers fighting over scraps of a life, that's for sure. I ended up in Paradise Pines thanks to divorce math. My ex-wife got the big house, the cars, half my pension. I got this corner lot and alimony that keeps ramen on the menu. But honestly, after years of stress and paperwork, this third of an acre was exactly what I needed.
The lot sat right at the community entrance, prime land the developer once wanted for a fountain or statue. Instead, they sold it cheap because of sightline issues, meaning it sat between a retention pond and a utility easement. No McMansion could go there. Perfect for a man who wanted peace. Every morning was the same. Coffee on the porch, listening to irrigation systems hum, watching the sunrise. Simple things. After years where sunrise meant checking for danger, this was healing. I spent 3 years turning that land into something meaningful. Nothing fancy, a small workshop, a vegetable garden, and most important, a living hedge wall made of privet, holly, laurel, and cherry. I cared for those plants through droughts and ice storms that knocked power out for weeks. Those hedges weren't just plants. They were proof I could grow something again. After divorce, after war, after loss. Plants take patience, faith, trust that tomorrow comes. Every Saturday, I walked the hedge line with my coffee, trimming dead branches, checking new growth. The click of pruning shears became meditation. Neighbors probably thought I was obsessed. They didn't know watching those hedges grow helped me believe I could too. Then came Genevieve's sterling cross, HOA architectural chair, queen of appearances, the kind of woman every HOA horror story is based on. Designer clothes, polite smile that felt like a threat. She drove a white Lexus that never saw dirt and talked about community vision like it was law. She had opinions about who belonged in Paradise Pines, and divorced Navy vets with old pickup trucks were clearly not part of her dream. She started showing up at meetings with posters about entrance aesthetics. I ignored it. I thought live and let live. My hedges followed rules. My taxes paid her newsletter bills. Then Tuesday morning happened. I woke at 6:30 like always, made coffee, stepped outside, and froze. My hedge wall was gone. Not trimmed, gone. Cut down to stumps, debris piled like a funeral pyre.
3 landscapers were loading branches into a wood chipper. The crew leader looked confused when he saw me. He handed me a work order signed by Genevieve. Emergency removal, sightline violation. What the paper didn't mention was what was under that hedge. 3 memorial rose bushes, one for each friend I lost overseas. Rodriguez, Smith, Williams, men who never came home to worry about HOA rules. They were ripped out and tossed aside. I stood there holding my coffee, staring at torn roots, and felt something settle in my chest. Not anger, calculation, calm, the kind you feel when someone just made a serious mistake. First step was documentation. Photos, GPS timestamps, truck plates, work orders. 22 years taught me wars are won with evidence. Then I called the HOA, voicemail, left a message with words not fit for print. Next call was the landscaping company owner, Carlos, a good man. He told me the job was rushed, paid cash, and Genevieve said I'd be out of town. Someone had been watching me. He also told me there was a photographer on site the whole time, reflectors, big camera, positioning the chipper for angles. That's when it clicked. This wasn't enforcement, this was a photo shoot. They destroyed my property for a magazine image. 3 days later, a letter arrived, congratulating me on my property improvement, offering replacement landscaping through Sterling Cross Design Services, her company, price tag $8,500, and a warning, any future unapproved landscaping would be removed immediately. My insurance denied the claim, landscaping not covered. That letter told me everything. This was profit and control.
So I went to HOA meetings, learned about a $200,000 beautification project. Guess who got the contract? Genevieve's company. Guess who approved it? The same board. Then I found the real issue, buried in meeting minutes. My lot had been labeled a gateway enhancement zone, without notice, without consent, done in closed session. Illegal. That violated open meeting laws. Then Genevieve escalated. One afternoon, I came home to a violation notice, 6 shipping containers in my driveway. I'd just bought them cheap. The notice said I had 72 hours to remove them or face fines. She knew moving them would cost thousands. Instead, I pulled permits, filed for an agricultural screening structure, found my deed had an old farming exemption. As long as I grew food, HOA limits didn't apply. So I planted, designed a food forest, and the containers became wind barriers. Temporary structures, legal. I scheduled the inspection for the same day as the HOA meeting. Then Genevieve sent lawyers, threats, complaints, claims I ran a junkyard. I filed counter-complaints, environmental violations, unauthorized fountain construction, wetland misuse. For every move she made, I made 3. Then Carlos called again. He recorded Genevieve asking him to damage my containers on purpose, insurance fraud, sabotage. That recording changed everything. And then Dorothy came over with old survey maps. She showed me something that flipped the board. My property line extended 12 feet farther than anyone knew.
The entrance fountain? On my land. The buffer zone, federally protected. They didn't just destroy my hedges, they violated environmental law. And I owned their prized entrance feature. I kept that information quiet, because the best leverage is patience.
I kept quiet about what Dorothy showed me. In my line of work, you don't show your strongest position until the timing is perfect. The law was already leaning my way. I just needed patience. Over the next 3 weeks, I finished building what Paradise Pines would never forget. The shipping containers weren't random. Every angle mattered. From the main road, it looked like an industrial art wall blocking their precious entrance view. Ugly to them, perfect to me. But anyone following the carefully placed visitor parking signs would be guided into a narrowing path. Each container tightened the space just enough that turning around became impossible too late. Every inch was planned. The gate system was simple and beautiful. A weighted pressure plate. Drive forward and the gate behind you closed automatically. No electronics, just physics. Steel never lies. I tested it again and again with my truck, adjusted the balance until it worked perfectly. The sound of steel locking into place felt like justice clicking shut. I installed security cameras too, officially to protect my agricultural project. Every angle covered. Meanwhile, I filed formal complaints with the county, unauthorized construction, environmental violations, illegal destruction of protected vegetation. Each complaint triggered long reviews that froze HOA action. The whole project cost me just over $3,000. Containers, crane, welding supplies, permits, less than half of what Genevieve wanted for new bushes. Then Dorothy brought more news. Neighbors were talking, sharing stories. Gardens destroyed, vans fined, ramps removed, solar panels forced down. People were tired of being bullied. Genevieve was panicking.
She filed emergency complaints claiming my containers were dangerous, claimed I was running a salvage yard, sent lawyers again, asked for restraining orders. But every time she pushed, more attention came her way. Then Carlos called with something serious. Genevieve had offered him money to damage my containers and blame equipment failure. He recorded everything, clear as day. That turned everything criminal. I delivered copies to the sheriff, the county attorney, and my lawyer. Now the clock was ticking. Genevieve's last move was scheduling a property value tour, December 15th. She planned to parade real estate buyers through the entrance and prove my installation hurt values. She didn't realize the tour route went straight into my maze. That morning was calm, cold, clear. I sat on my porch with coffee, cameras recording, county inspector scheduled. Dorothy had called the local news. At 10:15, her white Lexus arrived, followed by a Mercedes with buyers, a BMW with an appraiser, a videographer filming everything. They followed the signs perfectly. By the time Genevieve realized the path was too narrow, it was too late. She tried to stop, tried to reverse. The cars were boxed in. Then the gate closed. Metal scraped metal. Nothing major, just enough to trap them.
I stayed seated, sipped coffee. Soon shouting started, phones came out, panic spread. Then the county inspector arrived, then the news van, then a sheriff's deputy. Finally, Genevieve's attorney husband showed up, followed the same signs, triggered the same trap. Now 4 luxury vehicles were stuck. I stood up and walked to the property line, spread out Dorothy's survey maps. Cameras rolled. I explained calmly. The fountain was on my land. No easement, no permission. 5 years of trespass, environmental buffer zone violations, illegal hedge destruction. Then I played Carlos's recording. The silence was heavy. Fire trucks arrived with cranes. Extraction would take hours. Plenty of time for interviews. Genevieve claimed harassment. The deputy corrected her. They were trespassing. One by one, the vehicles were lifted out. The attorney's Porsche leaked fluid. The irony was perfect. Within 2 days, Genevieve resigned. Her law firm dropped the case. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. 23 residents spoke. Evidence piled up. The settlement paid for everything: hedge damage, legal costs, construction, memorial restoration. I leased the fountain land back to the HOA for monthly rent, retroactive. The county placed Paradise Pines under review. Carlos got contracts restoring destroyed gardens. I rebuilt my memorial garden inside the container courtyard. Roses bloomed in peace. I started helping other veterans build gardens, teaching homeowners their rights. Now, every morning, I sit on my porch with coffee, watching the roses grow. The difference is I'm not just healing anymore. I'm protecting others. If you're dealing with HOA nightmares, you're not alone. Drop your story in the comments. This is HOA Prime Stories, where bullies meet paperwork, patience, and steel. Like, comment, and subscribe for more true HOA battles where the homeowner wins. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's welded.
They thought I'd cry, complain, or back down. They thought I'd rebuild what they destroyed and move on. Instead, I learned the rules better than they did. I documented everything, I stayed calm, and I let their own greed and control trap them. My memorial roses grow again, protected and respected. The HOA changed forever, and the people who abused their power lost it all. If this story hit close to home, you're not alone. Share your HOA nightmare in the comments. This is HOA Prime Stories, where bullies meet consequences. Like, subscribe, and stay ready, because the next story might sound a lot like yours.